Hey everybody, it's me again. Today is Friday, November, what are we at? 15th? I think it's the 15th, 2024. Leaving the facility, just had lunch with my wife, and now I'm going home. I try to get some sleep, some rest, and I come back tonight. And then I'm off for 4 days. And being off for 4 days does not mean I don't work. It just means I don't have to be here working a shift. Anyway, what's on my mind today? Planning the future. As you can see, I got a few years behind me. In a couple of short years, I'm going to hit the big 6-0. And I need to figure out what I'm doing. A lot of people who, especially young people, are going to be like, well, you should have figured that out a long time ago. The thing is, plans change. Things happen. You know, when was it? 15 plus years ago. We had a lovely little housing crash in this country. Oh, there's a cop sitting here. Be very quiet. Passing a cop who's basically hijacking the corner here. And I better stop behind the crosswalk and then pull forward so he doesn't run out and give me a ticket. I hear an ambulance coming right behind me, so I better pull over since he's obviously watching me. Anyway, wait for the ambulance to go by. Hopefully it's not for anything serious. But like I was saying, there was a big housing crash and lots of people lost their homes. And I was part of that. So, you know, a lot of people got lucky and were positioned right. And I had a friend who was like in a good area. So even places and houses in good areas lost a lot of value back then, but they recovered quickly. They were able to recover, you know, sooner than other places. Me, unfortunately, I was in a, I don't know what you want to call it. I was in an area that certainly was not a prime location. It was one of those places, those cities where you can get some big houses cheap compared to, say, what it's like in other counties. And we're talking Southern California. So this was San Bernardino County. It was up in the high desert. You can look up places like that and see those home values versus, say, other houses in Orange County and LA County where they're a lot higher. So, lost our house. We both, my ex-wife and I, we both found ourselves out of work. We were both tied to the real estate industry. You know, my job was doing software testing, but I was doing software testing for, as you guessed it, a real estate company. So when everything kind of went crashing and nobody was getting more refinance loans and purchase loans and whatnot, business dried up and these companies laid off a lot of people. And my ex-wife was an escrow officer. So that's how we met, actually. I bought my first house. She was my escrow officer. So we quickly found ourselves going from doing very well. We were both making pretty good income, living in a beautiful house in one of the nicer neighborhoods up in the high desert, and then finding ourselves out of work and the value of our home just plummeting monthly, daily probably. And I remember seeing kind of this kind of happening. It wasn't like all of a sudden you wake up and the next day it's like your house is half the value. It was happening quickly, but you did see things coming along, right? I wanted to leave early, but there was also our kids in school, not taking them out during school. I get it. A lot of factors. Anyway, bottom line was we couldn't sell the house for what we owed on it. We couldn't rent it for anywhere close to what the payment was, because even rents plummeted too. Let's see if I can adjust this a bit. I think it got knocked out of level. So we're sitting there with this house, no jobs, can't rent it, can't sell it. There's no other place to go except to lose it. So anyway, lost it. Let me go back to my original topic. Planning for your future. So things can happen. Things like that can happen. That put a massive dent in my life's progress, my life's financial progress, and had to recover from that. I mean, there was a lot of debt that happened from that. Really got tough. Got very tough. I don't mind admitting, wound up filing bankruptcy. It was just too much. It was overwhelming. There was, I could have spent the rest of my life just being, tied to that debt. And I understand it was our debt, and, you should take care of your debt. And I understand that. But I also understand that this allowed me, because everything was pretty much tied to my name only, allowed me to have a life again. So I took it. But that doesn't mean everything came back to me. It was like starting from square one again. And like, okay, here I am in my 40s, starting over at square one. And so I need to, I need to like recession-proof myself. It's a smart thing to try to do. You want to protect yourself. You want to protect your finances. However that may be. Looking back, what could I have done differently? I don't really know. I guess we were very dependent upon the real estate market, right? I wasn't. I was able to kind of bounce back and find another job at a different company within a couple of months. I took a few months off. I finished my master's degree that I had started previously, so I wanted to finish that off, and I spent like 3 months, I think, just wrapping up what I had to do there. But I was able to quickly find more work after that, whereas my ex-wife couldn't. That's what she knew. That was her background, escrow. Nobody was hiring at all. So I don't know. We got ourselves pretty knee deep in debt prior to the housing crash. House values were skyrocketing quickly. I had my own home before I met like I said, when I met my ex-wife, she was the escrow officer in this house that I bought, and she and her mom owned a house too. So when we got together and we were married, we both had our houses, and we sold our homes and kind of pooled it together and bought this much bigger home. And she already had a couple of kids from before, and her mother living with her. So we had 4 kids and I had a mother-in-law living with us. So, couldn't be a tiny house. It had to be a big enough one to take care of us all. So it was a big home, big price tag, big everything. And then once the housing crash, we lost our jobs. Those of you who have lost your job understand or have heard of COBRA. So if you want to maintain your health insurance, which we needed to, 4 kids and us, it was quite expensive. I want to say it was like $1,200 a month. And this was 16 years ago, 2000. think it was 2007. So 18 years ago. No, I can't do the math. 17 years ago. So that was pretty expensive, especially when you don't have a job. So now we got a $1,200 a month payment just for Cobra, not including all the other things that are still, on the table to be paid. So it was a quick turnaround. You go from good income to no income, and your bills are higher than before. That's a hole that is quickly dug. This video is kind of turning into the housing market problem, but I really don't want to turn it into that. I can talk about that later, I guess, even though I've covered it pretty good here. It's about planning, though. So how do you plan for your future? How do you make sure that you're recession-proof, that you're not going to suffer when the next thing hits, if it does? Probably what I would say is, at least when it comes to real estate, be in a good location. A lot of you have probably heard of the phrase location, location, location. It's very true. You can be tempted with these really nice homes in these way out of the way places, and for prices that you would never be able to afford where you may have been, where you may have been raised and you go to work and such. You can't afford these places, but you can if you can drive 90 miles, and that's what I did. I used to commute 90 miles, so I could afford that big house. I needed the good income. I needed the Orange County income with high desert housing costs. Doesn't work out in the end when things fall apart. So I would say, number one, if you're going to buy something that's in a solid area, that even when the economy goes down, you're not going to have a shortage of people, or definitely not a shortage of people who can afford to buy your home or to rent it. I think it kept going good. I got a little low battery message. I didn't know if it stopped my video. Looks like it kept going. Looks like the number is still going. So buy in a good location. Number one. If you got to buy a smaller home, maybe it's not as nice, it's older, do that. Don't buy the big gigantic luxury home that you have to drive an hour and a half to 2 hours each day to get to work. It'll bite you at some point. Maybe not, but we're talking about trying to be recession proof. That's one thing. So if the recession, something hits, you're not necessarily going to be wiped out. And there's a lot of other things to consider, but this is just to talk about real estate, and I don't want to get into, your 401ks and all this other stuff. This isn't about that. But anyway, planning. So what I need, now that I'm going to be 60 pretty soon, what is it that I want my future to look like? Because I suspect that things are going to get a lot more difficult for me soon. I'm a big guy. I'm probably closing in on 400 pounds. Not quite 5'10". You don't see many of us at 70 years old running around. So what does that mean my future looks like? And this isn't about trying to, you got to lose weight, get healthy. Okay, got it. Got that message. I've had that message my entire life. I know the message. But the reality is, this is what is in front of me. So let's just say 10 years. What do I want 10 years to look like? Do I want to keep opening facilities? Because that's really kind of been the first thing on my mind, or my wife and my mind. I don't know the proper structure for that sentence. But obviously that means more work, and that's fine. I don't mind doing that. But it will take a couple of years to be in position to do that, and at least what I know now of what I need to do, it's going to take a couple more years. So I'm going to be literally 60 by that point. Do I want to be buying another house to open up as a facility? You know, we currently live in a rental house. Do we want to own our own home? I know that's important to me and to my wife. We want to own our own house. We don't want to just rent forever. I mean, and then what? Pay forever? I'm going to buy a house here in, say, 5 years for us to permanently live in. I'm going to be 65 or 63, and now I'm going to, what, get a 30-year mortgage? Even if I got a short one, 15-year mortgage, I'm going to be, what, 78 by the time it's paid off? Am I going to live that long? You know, I mean, sure, it's like whoever's left behind, my wife, my kids have moved on. They live on their own. You know, is this going to be the inheritance? Is that what maybe the benefit of this is? Like, even if there's a mortgage, there should probably be some good equity by that point. Probably. So there's benefit of doing this, but I got to look at, like, okay, well, what's my life going to look like? Well, if I got a mortgage, I better be working. Got to be getting some kind of income, and Social Security is not going to cut it. It's probably not going to cut it for a lot of people, let alone what our bills would be, you know, for that kind of house. You know. But even if we did get another house, how long are we going to keep working the facility? And we can certainly get more people to work for us and to cover all the work. Maybe it's just at that point it's just some paperwork and things like that, some admin work that we do, which should be able to do that for many years to come, or at least many of our living years, right? There's no guarantee of how many years you got, but I think it would be quite some time before I'm mentally not able to do that kind of work. Little bumpy road. Wow, it's quite the Wild West kind of road there. You know, the old wagon trains. Oh, got the wagon train. So I don't know. You know, I got to really think about this. I don't want to be pausing too much because that makes for a very boring video. But, like, how far do I want to plan out working and buying facility, or buying a house and making that into a facility? Because even though you buy a house, it's not instantly open for business. You know, let's say I buy a house today. It would probably take a solid year before it's open for business. And then little by little, will you get the referrals to come in to start generating an income from that facility? So all that time, say a good year and a half, you're just losing money. You got to be making house payments and utilities and whatever else you got to do, because in order to get approved as a business or a vendor to do this business, you have to have all these insurances in place, and everything's got to be in place, and you're going to be paying for this stuff. So you got to pay for all this insurance, and you have nobody in your facility. So come on, people, let's go. For some reason, they're all stopping, and they don't need to. All right. So, you know, do I do that? Is that my plan, to just keep doing that? You know, one big goal of mine, which I don't know if I'll ever realize it, is I wanted to buy some land up in Oregon. I'd like to put a house on this land. It doesn't need to be a massive house or anything like that, but I would really like more land. I'd like a lot of land. You know, I'd say at least 5 acres. I'd like to at least have that. More acres the better, because ideally I'd like to be able to live near the coast. You know, it doesn't have to be on the coast, probably not on the coast. That gets to be very expensive. Besides, You get a bunch of acres on the coast, and you're talking millions of dollars. I'm not doing that. Can't do that. But I'd like it to be near the coast. I want to be within, say several miles of the coast, and I want to be able to turn off whatever highway, whatever road it is that gets you to the property, and be able to drive in a little bit. You got to drive in just a little bit to get to your home. It's not like houses are now. You come off the street and you're instantly in your driveway, and boop, there. You better park, and then you go right inside. I don't want that. When I'm in my house or I'm sitting on my porch, I want to be able to look out and just see nature. I'd like to just see the trees, and if I'm on, ideally it's like a little incline, like a hill that this house kind of sits on, and maybe it can see out over the trees and you can see the ocean a little bit. That would be perfect for me. So where does that fit in? Where does that fit into this big game plan? That's not something you can kind of squeeze into what's going on right now. If we just have the one facility, it's probably not likely to do that. Like I would say, first thing would happen before a thing in Oregon would be to buy our permanent home here and get that situated. So we have our facility home, we'd have our home to live in. And then if everything is great at that point and there's money coming in and we can do it, then maybe something in Oregon. So what's the likelihood of that? In order to do that, I'd have to plan to keep working a lot longer, getting more facilities in place, yada, yada, yada. But is that a wise plan to have at this age? I'm planning to do a lot of work, to what age? 70? So let's assume I make it to 70. I spent the next 12 years building facilities, getting them up, getting them running, getting them all filled up with people and residents, and now we're all sitting pretty. And assuming that there's no drastic change in California or the country, and this stuff still exists, because who knows? Reagan did this way back in the day when I don't remember the details because I was a youngin' back then, but he closed or stopped a lot of these mental health institutions, whatever they were, and a lot of them wound up in the streets. What would happen here if they did something similar to where they cut a lot of these programs out? Well, we would be done at that point. So a lot can happen. And here I'm just yapping a whole lot longer than I said I was going to. I was going to make these short little videos. This one's already at 23 minutes, a lot longer than I wanted. And I still got more to go. So hopefully you're still hanging around and listening to me. If not, you're not going to even hear me say this. So I need to really think about this. It's a time for real serious reflection on what my near future looks like. I need to think about it health-wise and just, physically, what can I handle? Like 10 years ago, when I was in my 40s, I could do a whole lot more than I can do now. So what's 10 years from now going to look like? Am I going to be, wheeled around in a wheelbarrow? I mean, that's how I get around. Can't do a whole lot with that. So I need to think about these kind of things and try to be in position to handle stuff. What if something happens? What if I have a heart attack and I survive, but yet I'm disabled, or I have a stroke and I'm disabled and I can't do anything and I can't take care of myself? Will I be in a position? Will my wife and I be in a position to handle that? Or if it happens to my wife, will we be in a position that I can handle that for her? These are all important things. I don't want to be just caught, in older age, and not have any preparation. I don't want to be like, I have to be living with my kids and now they're gonna have to put their lives on hold to take care of dad, because dad didn't prepare himself. No, I don't want anything like that at all. I don't want to burden my kids with me. So that's part of the planning. I can have my wish list and my dreams of owning property and sitting on my porch and looking at trees, or do I just put that away and say that's just not going to happen? I'm going into the car wash, and just be okay with that, and just try to be in a position of, I don't want to say wealth, but position of handling that kind of a situation. Anyway, I'm going to stop this video. I guess I didn't have the full-on discussion about planning. Hold on one second. Full-on discussion about planning that I wanted to, but you get the idea, right? I mean, it's the topic of planning versus me giving specifics about what to plan for and how to plan, that sort of thing. But there are a lot of things to consider when you're thinking about your future. These are probably things that can apply to any age, but I know if I was in my 20s, I'd be like, well, I got a lot of years before I start to have to think about the end game. But I do need to think about the end game. And it doesn't mean I'm resolving myself to be done and dead and give up. But I need to be able to handle what the future brings, and not just falling on the shoulders of other people around me, like my kids, or go to some state hospital thing or whatever, and because we can't afford it. And yes, it's no way to live. But anyways, those are my thoughts. I got a lot of thinking to do about my future, my wife's future, how it's going to impact our kids, and what we're leaving behind. I think the tough part is trying to be realistic and yet not give up on our dreams, because that's kind of what everybody has. You start with your dreams, right? You want this, you want that, and it's not even about material. I gotta have this material stuff. I need this big huge house, and I need this big car, and I need whatever. It's about, where do you want to plant yourself for the rest of whatever you have left in life. And I would really like to be able to plant myself in something has more nature, like Oregon, and my kids live up there. So I would really like to be somewhere that's more accessible to them, but also can't leave Chino, because this is where Susette's kids are. So it's another thing about planning. Like, how are you going to plan to have a house in two different places? So forget just having your permanent house, but you're going to have a permanent house near Chino, and your little vacation or your semi-permanent house up in Oregon, and your facilities, and they're not that rich. I wouldn't even consider us rich, but at least not by California standards. Anyways, it's Friday. We did it. What does the future hold? I don't know. But we're going to make some plans, and I'm going to start putting some serious thought into it, more than I have in the past. I have put thought into it in the past. But what's kind of bringing this up today is Suzette and I were talking about, the second facility, or what the game plan was, and it's just got the ball rolling up in the head. So maybe another video, I'm going to fill you in on it. This is getting to be a half-hour video. That's plenty long. We don't need much more than this. This is probably too long for a lot of you. Just watching me driving in the car. Sounds very exciting. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to my rambles. Everybody who knows me knows that I can ramble about anything. So if you got any ideas of topics, something you're curious of my thoughts, please leave them down in the comments. I will try to read them. Well, I will read them because as of right now, I don't have any comments in my videos. So right now I got all kinds of time to read your comments. But I will try to look to make sure that if there are comments left, that I'm reading them. Anyways, take care. Till next time. Bye.